cash on
That
hand.
doesn't surprise me.
You're on. You're on.
Call this meeting to order with the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well,
Oh, boy.
oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay, I heard you click and I didn't want to.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we shall work on the, well, let the record reflect that this is the joint Stark County Council and Stark County Commissioners meeting for December 21st, 2020. The council is here in quorum and the commissioners are here in quorum as well. I think that since the transfers will be pretty quick, we'll take care of the tougher business. And we'll start off with housekeeping here. If any minutes that need to be signed. Just looking.
I have J&K first.
Yeah. Are they gonna need to tell us anything about that? On the
Well, they're gonna
sheriff's side, or do you
explain
have
the
all the
bill.
information?
They're gonna explain it.
Oh, and I'll entertain a motion for that draft
So
from
moved.
Monday, November 16th. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is that also ayes from the commissioners? Is there any opposed? All in favor, Rachel? And then we have October 19th here just for signature. Just signature, and then September 21st, just signature. Just some people that were missing there. You on that one. Yeah. You said J&K is on the
Ted,
call.
yeah.
So, why don't we go ahead and have J&K just kind of explain to us what we're looking at here.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yep.
Okay, the invoice, we have two invoices that have been very outstanding since February this year. And let me explain why they're not under the service contract. Four-way internet is your internet provider. And after we installed the system, sometime into January, they installed a system out at North Judson Water Tower. And in doing that, that interfered with our equipment to talk to dispatch. And that made the communications between dispatch and the fire departments out in that area very scratchy and intermittent. So we went out, and naturally it has to be overtime because that
Can
calls.
you pause that?
Excuse me?
Mute everybody but him, please.
Go ahead, Ted, sorry.
Okay. So we went out there and identified that it was four-way internet that was causing the problem. we actually shut the system off and the test went well and we turned it back on and we had problems again. So that's the invoice for $892.65. That's what that's all about.
So, real quick, just on that one, before we move on to another one, can you show us in our contract where sources of interference or other acts of whatever, that it's our responsibility when we're already paying you a service?
Yes,
I don't
yes.
understand why this bill wouldn't go to four-way instead of us.
Well, first of all, it's their interference, okay? And under the contract, it says.
You say there, you mean four-way, not ours, correct?
Say that again.
I'm still trying to make the connection on how you think that's the county's problem if four-way creates some kind of interference on. I'm assuming, are you paying for space on that tower in North Judson? Or are we? I mean, is
No,
four-way?
this is the county's equipment.
The radio is, but the
Yes.
internet has nothing to do with us.
No, nor me in the contract. Someone asked the question about what's in the service contract. If you pull out the original contract, you'll see what's covered and not covered. And one of the comments is work performed, which is not covered by this contract, including software support and interference regulations, will be charged at an applicable rate per hour plus materials. So basically, we just have labor trying to figure out who is causing the problem on your frequency. And that's how we determined it was four-way, interfered with it. And you are right, four-way should be paying this, but I work for the county.
So you're our partner, okay? And I mean, like, I think even you were a little shocked that the commissioners approved this $50,000 a year service contract. I mean, it was something we abolished back in my early days of being on the council and having contracts like that. I mean, as our partner, I mean, for $900, why wouldn't you just bill four-way first? I mean, they may have just paid it and everybody's happy, and we don't have a bill that is, sitting here, I guess, since April, according to the date that we have here. I mean, does that make sense to you, Marty?
Well, all I can say is this is I'm not really saying one way or another about the reason that they're given, but it actually is the first time I've heard the reason. Maybe it's a valid reason. Once again, I think possibly it really is four-way's responsibility to cover this. Well, but I don't really have an opinion on it because, honestly, it's the first time I've heard that it was caused by interference from four-way, although that makes sense, don't get me wrong.
Is four-way, do they have a contract with North Judson to have that on their water tower? Because I believe four-way has one on Coons Lakes too, right, Ted?
That's correct.
Oregon Township gets paid by four-way to have that on there.
I would imagine they do, yeah.
So to me, this is between
Yeah.
Judson or whoever's four-way's paying and J&K, not us. We don't have anything to do with that.
Why would it be J&K when it's your
No.
equipment you guys call us out to look at?
No, it's the bill's between you guys and them. Not it's your problem to eat the bill.
Right.
It should be between you guys and Judson or you guys in Oregon Township or whoever four-way's paying.
Okay, then let's go a little further so we keep everything in sync. We also have another bill here at Coons Lake. We went out and checked it. We had interference. They couldn't talk to Coons Lake's fire department. And we found out eventually, after we went through the whole system, that they took your antenna off the tower. They added additional tower height to that tower, and four-way installed your antenna on the side of the tower incorrectly.
Okay.
So that's
I
that
still don't
bill.
know how that's the county's problem, though. I mean, don't you have any kind of discussion or any co-agreements with four-way? I mean, I
Why-
still.
So wait a
this does
minute.
not make sense to
All
me.
we do is take care of you guys' equipment. And if there's interference, you guys say, go find the interference. We go find it. We can't bill them because we don't do business with them. We
No, I
do
mean,
business
I
with
think-
you.
I think that makes sense. He doesn't have any privity to contract with them, but what what would be helpful is if we would be, I mean, maybe we were informed, but I didn't know previously that this was basically being caused by another user of the tower that was, I mean, frankly, is it fair to say that Four Way should have known these things might cause a problem?
You're asking me?
Yeah. I mean,
The
I'm
answer
not
is
putting
yeah.
you, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to say, what's your opinion about that?
The answer is yes, but most internet people don't go quite that deep. They just put it
Right,
up.
right, I get you. They don't, their knowledge of radio isn't necessarily that sophisticated is what you're saying.
Correct.
Right.
And
Okay.
and,
I mean,
and when we turn the bills in, evidently you must not have been told what these bills are then. Because we
well,
told
I didn't, maybe if I was told I didn't understand it, your explanation here has clarified that. I didn't
Oh, thank you.
understand that before. I'm not going to say no one told me that there was interference because I think that was discussed as a possibility, but I think he's right that there's no privity of contract with the other company, but I still think the other company might be liable for the expense because they caused it.
Especially considering, I'm sure we didn't get $50,000 worth of service this year.
Well, that I understand that. I mean,
Or what are you recommending, that we need to pay it?
um,
I'd also like to review just to see what kind of wording is there for us to get out of the contract. I mean, it's not gonna cover.
I'm sorry, it's been a long time, but now that I know this, I would like to review it in light of the information, and I apologize for the delay. I just didn't understand the facts of the case
This seems
before. Maybe I should have, but I don't recall ever hearing all that. Does anybody else recall hearing that?
Right. I can see them billing for this because
Oh, yeah, I agree.
it's somebody's stupidity.
Not us, what we pay.
Right.
We already paid.
Yeah, I think whoever Four Way is paying is the ones that need to take care of this, or Four Way themselves.
Are those towers like the one in Washington Township where we paid for the original tower, the county did? I mean, why
Morgan
would,
Township owns their tower.
okay,
I do believe. Is that correct, Ed?
That's correct.
and the other one's in the water tower.
And the county put the equipment up on their tower and they own the equipment. The county does.
I think we should still have Marty review our
Ted,
contract.
do you have any experience with, just in general, do these kind of conflicts, no comment on this one in particular, but do conflicts often arise from tower sharing issues?
It's getting worse and worse, especially with the internet people, with this wireless. We've had counties where they have to go out and replace all the frequencies in the radios. But typically, the internet side, they normally work with us and they understand, but some of them won't.
I'm a little hesitant to give an opinion because once again, there's facts here that I didn't previously know. So
The other thing is the whole county is almost all exclusively using 800 radios now, so they're not even using this system. It's a backup system. Like, I think two things. I think we need Marty to review it and see if we need to pay it, then we pay Mr. Hurley his money. I mean, and then I think then we can discuss possibly with the township. I mean, first of all, the other thing I want to bring up for 2021 that we forgot in our budget workshops is starting in 20, we were supposed to start getting from each municipality a contribution to the radio service, right? They committed to it. They said they were going to budget for it in 20 and everything else. We didn't bill them, but I mean, this we can probably carry that bill forward. But the other thing I would see is, like, we need to do this by the end of the year, get out of this contract. That's a waste of money. That's $50,000 is wasted.
I disagree because your system is out to, it pages the firemen out. They don't page out on 800, they page out on this system.
We page on 800.
You don't have 800 pagers though.
Nobody uses pagers anymore, Ted.
Bill. Okay,
We
but I just,
dispatch and respond on 800.
who am I speaking to?
The chief at Hamlet,
Okay, maybe Hamlet does, but the other departments don't, because we've been selling pagers, VHF.
not very smart to waste money.
Well, I'm just saying that the system is made to page out page out fire department. And there's still departments on VHF. So if you eliminate it, they won't get some pages.
No, I don't think we're talking about eliminating the system.
No.
We're eliminating the waste of $50,000 a year when it's probably not going to cover a lot of things that happen. I mean, interference,
Do you have I'm sure you kept track of how many hours you spent down here under that contract.
Yep.
Do you have a rough number of what that would cost us if we didn't have the contract?
Well, and you won't believe me, but we lost money last year on you with all the hours that we came over there. So it's going to cost you almost as much, if not more, because then you start paying for trip charges over there. You also have to pay us overtime if you go after hours. So
in overtime
just-
now.
no, just on this, because it's not on the contract.
Let's request an audit from them on that, just so we can see what it was, because in the meantime, Marty still needs to review this,
Yeah,
and then we can look at how to get.
well,
out of
and
it.
there's really two, there's sort of like two phases. That one is, I mean, I think, you know, one is to determine whether it ought to be covered under the contract, and if what he cited is correct, perhaps not, but if not, then I think we ought to look at what we would, if, you know, if I did advise you to pay it, I want to make sure I preserved our rights to try to collect it from the entity that caused the damage. You know what I'm saying? Because essentially, it's like causing damage in a way.
Oh, right.
You know,
But I
putting
mean-
it, especially, you know, when you start moving equipment around, it isn't your, I mean, they didn't get permission to move the equipment before they did. Is that right, Ted?
That's correct. We didn't even know it even happened.
So they
When
just,
you
they
work.
just move, I mean, normally you wouldn't, I mean, this isn't an area of expertise on my part, but it just seems just reason that normally you don't move somebody else's equipment without their permission. Is that
That's
fair to say?
correct.
Okay,
My thing is.
yeah, so I,
Did
you know,
the entity that tower or water tower is, did they know that they were moving it?
right. Still seems like, they're,
Because they might have called the trustee at Mark at
yeah, I see.
Oregon Township and said, hey, we gotta add to this tower, and he's like, yeah, no problem, whatever.
We're making money on it.
Right, he doesn't know any different.
What was the total cost of all this stuff? About $4,000? A little over $4,000, so it's not cheap.
4,400.
Yeah, all right, well, why don't you let me look into it, and I'll make a report back to you at the next meeting, you know, if you like.
Want to make a motion table?
I'll make a motion to table.
Is there a motion table? Is there a second?
Second.
Who was that?
It came from Don.
Don. Second from Don. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All in favor, Rachel?
Thanks, Ted.
Yeah, can I make one more comment?
Yep,
If you do not want, if you're not going to sign the contract, which we have a 5-year contract with you right now, if you call us, we have a hard time getting anything paid out of Stark County. Could you at least look at our bills so we get paid within 30, 35 days, please? We've always had trouble getting paid.
The department's turning the coin, so I don't know.
So just a comment. I don't know if you guys even knew that.
Well,
no, we did not.
so most counties get, sign up for net 30 days. I mean, we have to wait for the people to turn in the claim, and then sometimes it could be a 30-day period before there's a next meeting,
The
so.
department gets the bill and they turn it in.
Yeah.
We can make.
We can ask our departments, Ted, to be better about getting those turned in, because that, you know,
Well,
under 30 days.
It should all go to the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
Right?
Under 30 should be fine.
but just a comment, okay?
The EMA director got this one though, with the.
Yeah.
Would the EMA director have been getting the bills before?
No, the sheriff's department got this though. They gave it to me. I got Jay involved.
Oh, right, okay. We shall do that also. Let's make a note of that.
So do I report back to my company that it'll be decided next month who's going to pay it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead. I
I think we got money ahead to put up another 800 tower, let the state take it over, and then we have no contract on radios at all.
Mhm. I'm with you. So I'm noticing too on these transfers, so we'll move on to the sheriff. There's 15,000 coming out of the utilities total.
I think we have two of the same one, Dave. When I looked at it the other
Yes.
day.
Yes, you do. This one, I think I doubled on accident. That's up on the screen. There's one of them from the sheriff that I took a copy of twice.
But then you added $1,300 more to one of them. Which one's the newer one? Because if that's the case, it's got an extra item there.
If you're looking at a packet in front of you,
See, I
Yes.
think,
then
this one, this is added to this one, and then this just adds the other 1,300 to it. Unless he's moving $4,900 twice.
So 11,200.
that's taking away from utilities. They're
Yes.
using utilities to pay for.
Right.
That's exactly what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
We over budgeted by over $11,000 in utilities. That
But is
concerns
he-
me.
Is there two of them in the same amount of $4,900?
Yes,
And both going into gas, oil, and lube?
yes.
We over budgeted by $16,100 in utilities.
It should be on here.
By how much?
16,000.
I mean, we could have put that in the pension. You know what I mean? Instead of finding ways to use everything else.
It might be.
There was a lower jail population, just, that-
Square footage didn't change though, did it?
because of COVID. What's that?
Square footage doesn't change.
No,
though, right?
no, the square footage, but I would think that when there's more people, there's more consumption. I'm not sure, but yeah.
But didn't we last year go into a deal with REMC or NIPSCO, whoever it is, because we thought we'd been being overcharged and they did an audit and found out, yeah, we had,
That's true.
and we would have budgeted before that.
That's probably
So this year's budget should have been a lot less than what it is probably.
There's 16,000.
21.
I take that, and we're looking at the end of the year, let's try to use up all the money.
I'm guessing if they're moving it into gas, oil, and lube, it must be in a negative. A lot.
By however is being moved.
They're already that much in the negative.
Pam's online. Is it right?
Pam, are you on here?
You
I
have-
am.
Okay. Do you want to talk about I think they're asking about your gas, oil, and lube, it being in the negative?
Okay, there should only be one transfer for 4,900, not two.
Is it,
Rachel.
11,200 over there. Which one's the correct one? though?
is it the one that's only for the utilities to gas, oil, and lube, or, because I have
No.
another one from utilities to jailers and gas, oil, and lube?
It's that one, the second one.
The jailers too?
Correct.
Okay, so take out this one.
Yeah.
Hold on.
6,200.
utilities. That wasn't really.
11,200 over in utilities.
Hey Pam, why did we budget so far over on utilities?
I've never changed it. It's always been the same for however many years.
So our utilities were just that much cheaper this year?
I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't get the NIPSCO bill that goes to the auditor's office. Not really sure where that one's staying.
Well, auditor,
We'll have to check that first against the budget for next year.
I don't do NIPSCO bill either.
didn't even.
I have a person that does it.
She's the head of HR.
Yes, she is.
But I don't do it.
But Pam is correct. She does not even see the bills. It comes directly to our office, my office.
I wish it's hindsight
So-
2020. I'm just curious, I'm assuming you would have had less calls this year because of COVID, really?
Dave, I have a couple
Sure,
questions.
go ahead. Yeah, that's a lot. overtime.
Just to, what was the need or the cause, and just asking for the $10,000 in overtime pay? I mean, what, was there something that prompted that we needed that much overtime spent?
We had different employees off. We kind of moved them around with the jail. There were some off for COVID, different things like that.
So why didn't we claim this in CPP money?
It's in what?
Almost 15,000.
Okay, and then I have my other
You guys spent
question.
the COVID money.
No, we didn't spend a dime of the COVID money.
Okay,
They,
The same, note to self, if that comes in the future, like this is exactly what the COVID money should have been used for, you know, as opposed to some of the other things. that-
So I guess to answer my question, the $10,000 in extra overtime that you're spending is because of people off due to COVID or quarantines, and is that it? Or is there other situations?
Correct. We had a lot of employees off. We tried to cover with part-time. As you see, I transferred some into part-time
Okay,
jailers as well.
all right, I understand. And then you drop down that where you're taking the money out from, you've got $10,000 coming out from prisoner meals. So
Correct.
coming out from prisoner meals, is there an over and abundance in the money budgeted for prisoner meals?
This year,
$10,000.
our
numbers are down.
yeah, our numbers are
they were
down.
way
We-
down because they didn't do they didn't bring anybody in for therapeutic community because of COVID.
Okay, so you had an excess because of the lack of inmates in this, right? Okay, that answers that. I'm just curious.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion, we make a reduction. You want me to do both of these separate?
you can do them all
Regular.
together.
Do them all together. It's all the same thing.
A reduction in utilities in the amount of 4,900, 1,300, and 5,000. A reduction in repair and maintenance in the amount of 3,650. Education in the amount of 1,675. I'm guessing that's something in medicine. And 820. Building maintenance in 2,100. Prisoner meals in 10,000. Transfer that into extra help in the amount of 3,650. Overtime in the amount of 14,000.
This is 4,595.
There's two of them in a row.
It's two different funds. Do them separate. One's county general, one's
Those are the
GLC.
same exact number.
One's county general, one's GLC. They do it
One's
separate.
1,000, one's 11,14.
Oh, sorry. $4,595. Overtime in the amount of $10,000. Part-time jailers in the amount of $5,000. Gas, oil, and lube in the amount of 4,900. And jailers in the amount of 1,300.
Pain in the butt system. There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Have a second from Kay, is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Is there any opposed? So I believe the next thing was the retirement fund discussion. I believe the merit board is on. Would the president of the merit board like to maybe open up with, or whoever's representing the merit board?
Our president of the merit board, Ed, is not here.
Okay, well, I really haven't heard much back from the state as far as the action that's gonna be taken, but there will be legislation in 2021 to deal with this. Interestingly, the governor's office, I won't say all senators and, or I should say, I won't say the full Congress, but the ones that are aware of what's apparently there was a lot of light shined on this. There was not a big awareness that there were these problems. And I audited the numbers from the state, and even though Elaine Beatty said that most of the accounts are funded 100%, I looked at 80%, and that put it like 80% of the counties were below 80%. So I took it below 75% just to make it more of a fair schedule. And what it turned out was 53 counties are below 75%, and the average that they're at is 63.19. I sent this to you, Pam, in an email, but it was later because I was just, kind of just trying to look at these numbers. So it doesn't really help with where we go with the outcome. Obviously, we are paying a lot out, and that's part of the problem. I mean, we looked at some metrics. I mean, normally we pay 11.2% of our, for the PERF side of the program, 11.2% of our 11.2% against payroll is the contribution for the PERF. For this fund, it's 33.4%, and it's calculated to go up to 36.7 next year, just making the assumption that that we're not going to improve. And so, the actuary automatically calculates those numbers based on that. Just in review for the council, the number that Elaine was presenting was 227,668 short. How much did we end up in total collecting from the gambling boat?
We owe isn't it, Pam, is it about $82,000?
Yeah, 82,107.
That's how much we owe. Which Riverboat was down this year. I mean,
As was everything.
as was everything. And so the sheriff's department does service on court cases. They get a certain amount of money collected for each court case that they serve to people. I did some checking into where that money goes to. Right now, that money goes into our county general. And it always has. I don't know why. I asked other auditors. I only had 5 responses. 3 counties, Wabash, Hendrick, and Montgomery, they actually pay it into the sheriff's pension fund. The sheriff's service fees go into the sheriff's pension fund. Fulton and Marshall County go into county general, but then they fund their sheriff's pension from county general.
And that's about 10,000.
I didn't look, sorry.
We did an ordinance that said it would go to the sheriff's pension, honestly. Or at least we talked.
You had that number, didn't you, Pam?
For the sheriff's service fees?
Yeah.
I know the alarm.
I didn't know that.
I don't think, I mean, not.
Maybe we just discussed it. Maybe we never got done. We definitely discussed that. It's not a lot of money, but
No, it's not like.
it would help a little.
I don't know why.
But I mean, that's something if I can start putting in their pension fund if,
Also, they can put, actually, they can put some other something.
It goes in that fund too, doesn't it?
But it's like
$10
$10.
or something, right?
might be,
Might have been forgotten.
yeah.
Could you
Yeah.
raise that to like $2-3
I can look it up though.
Absolutely not.
Are you kidding me?
Hey, Bill, what was the deal that goes through the judge,
Service fee.
that service fee we talked about?
But we talked about, what things for like the paper service.
The one that was like $1 or $2, and if you,
Oh, you're talking about the paper filing fee that goes through the court.
yeah. Can
Yeah,
you,
that's up to the discretion of the judge. He can, I don't know what it is now. I think it's like $1 per paper that's filed. I talked to other sheriffs and there is up to $2 or $3 per paper that's filed, but it's up to the judge to make that change. But that's for court, court security.
okay, yeah. I couldn't remember what, I just remembered us talking
Now,
about.
what we did talk about was all of our level 6 DOC money that we do DOC billing on goes back to general fund. And that's between 75 and 90,000.
What we get for county funds and all
Yeah,
that.
not including the billing for the county felons and parole warrants, which is, this year, we collected 24,000.
Miscellaneous
Which, I
revenue.
mean, they have,
Okay.
That's for the housing of the
It's just like
DOC
the
inmates,
EMS thing.
right?
There is a limit to how
Right.
you just like keep, and you know what I mean? Like, this county isn't a sheriff's department, this county is a county, you know what I mean? Well,
so we know for this year, we owe 82,170.
I don't know if there's a lot of light at the end of the tunnel now without just putting it more in the rears. I mean, one thing is we could pay it out of jail seated, and then hopefully I can get some
How
effort
much do we
on the
have
legislation, couple
left in
million.
jail seat?
You have over $2 million in jail seated.
But
But
we,
it's not gonna, regardless, it's not gonna be paid out this year. This year's done with claims. This, the next claims period is January 4th. So
Done.
it's done. We're done.
Done working for the year?
So, and we'll have to do, I mean, you don't have a budgeted line item in jail seated, so we'll have to do additional appropriation for like your first meeting in January if you want to, for the 82,170. An additional appropriation for jail seated is not a,
Correct, that's
Yeah,
not
I mean,
a hit
that-
towards us
no.
because it's already money that's there.
yeah,
I think that's
I'm just
what we
worried
need to
about 21 because it's gonna be in the teeth again.
and
The end
if,
result's gonna be
I mean,
short
if
and, you know,
the sheriff's service fees, I mean, those go toward the pension. Marty says he thinks that we did that several
I
years
thought
ago.
we did, but it's been a while. I'll have to look back at that. That's not gonna.
I know we
solve the
talked about it. I agree
Maybe
with
we
Marty.
just talked
If we
about it,
didn't
we
do it,
didn't
I
do
know we were very strongly wanting to do it. I just don't know if we ever got there. So I agree with that. But unfortunately though, that's not gonna get us close necessarily. Now, the actuary is gonna adjust anyways. Now, unfortunately, the merit board isn't there, so I can't really just say kind of where we stand, but, you know, I'll just tell you this though, Bill, like, you know, I've talked to the state, and this is a really kind of precarious situation for the county to be in. Not that the deputies and the sheriffs aren't deserving of their pension, no, nothing like that. But the merit board gets to make the decision on who spends our money, and.
No, it's up to, we do a vote on that, Dave.
Well, I mean, okay, but Elaine, what I'm saying is that the tail's wagging the dog there. I mean, the county in every other aspect, I mean, honestly, even the senators that I've talked to, the governor, like, nobody knew that this is how this worked, that we did not, the council doesn't make the decision, because honestly, you guys like Elaine Beatty. I don't. She's lost money for you guys. I've in the past, I've brought you guys, management firms that were making 2 times what this one's been making. Like, if we're gonna have to cover the shortfall, then we should be making the decision on who's gonna be potentially making or losing the money, but preferably making money. I mean, that part of it doesn't make sense. The government agrees with that, but that's not your fault, Bill. That's just the statutory, you know, legislation that's in place. And I promise that is gonna be part of something that happens in 21. It probably just won't help us in 21 because, you know, the state probably won't have it done by the end of the year. So I think the other scary thing is that we've been talking amongst ourselves about, we do agree that we have talked in the past about putting that paper, the money that we collect on the paper into that fund. I don't know if I can see the gamble boats turn around. What do we do with the firework money? The state used to give firework money. Did we used to put that in the pension at one time too?
I have no idea.
You remember, Bob? Did we used to put firework money into the pension fund back like several years ago? Did the state used to give us money that the taxes they collected on fireworks, and we put it? Was there something else that we used to put money in besides the gambling money, or has it always just been the gambling since you and I have been
It's
together?
just the gambling money.
And that's what I remember, Dave.
Didn't some of the lottery money go into that?
The gaming money from the boats, that's all that,
See, I thought some of the lottery money went into it too,
no.
but I know they cut a bunch of that back.
Well, the bottom line is, guys, you know, the picture that I was trying to illustrate was just using statistics and looking at the numbers in Gateway. The first thing is, we're not the only department or the only county that's like that. 53 out of 92 are below 75% with an average of 63% funded. But that doesn't help us out as far as where we're at with the county. But the bottom line is, is that, there's a lot of threats that we hear, but it's just the rumor mill from the merit board, but then Elaine obviously plants the seeds of they should sue us. That's 53. Actually, no, that's gonna be probably more like 70 lawsuits that One America is gonna have to, be juggling with next year, to affect this, process they wanna do. But I think in the same token, by statute, we have a responsibility though also, to not be at the bottom. We are in the bottom third of, of the number. So, and I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat that or try to hide that. I mean, it's unfortunate. I until I looked at these numbers, I didn't realize, where we stood in that. That's why I put in that, not that I want you to be statisticians, but we're one standard deviation below the mean, which is, not a super happy
Okay.
place to be.
If we funded the 89, is it $89,000?
82.
If we funded the $82,000 out of the jail seated fund, where,
We're going, I should say, we're actually, Howard, you're right. We're gonna have to do that.
but,
I mean,
my question is, if we do, the jail seated fund, you said has $2 million in it. What other things possibly in the next few years, few months down the road in the jail seated fund, that if I'm correct, has $2 million in, is needed to come out of that?
You gotta pay the bonds.
Well,
Yeah.
bond's over $1 million every year.
Okay,
and
And
honestly,
we pay a lot of other things out of jail.
right, well, that's why I'm asking.
but we're at the warning threshold. The warning
Right.
threshold that they told us in the very beginning, that's right where they said to start being very cautious. Is
Right.
right where we're at
That's
right now.
when we're at the
And
2
we've
million.
got way more stuff that's coming up. Now, just for the benefit of those that are joining us from the sheriff's department and the county online, we also have an issue with cash on hand. We carry over cash every year. Because one of the things that I was thinking, like, since I've been on the council, usually that's around 500 to 600,000. And in the past, so I will say that our elected officials and supervisors have been very judicious with their money and they've been frugal.
Somehow.
And some have not, yes. Some definitely have not, and some have actually, just said, hey, it's there, I'm gonna use it. But at the end of the day, part of the problem is our revenues are down 600,000 plus. So in county government, when one suffers, we all suffer. And that's just how it goes, you know what I mean? That is shared across the board. What I'm getting at is normally I was telling Rachel, like, it would have been nice if we could have just said, okay, we saved this amount of money, let's pay the sheriffs, let me paint the picture for you. Let me finish that first. So instead of 400 to 600,000 carrying over, we're carrying over 60 to 80,000. My hope was it was going to be a lot more than that. So that way we could just take a bunch of those, find the biggest
He's
amounts of
talking
that,
about county general too, right
Yeah.
now.
find that cash. But, again, if we take any of that money and put it anywhere else, it's just going to eat more into that cash on hand. And remember, two things. We don't want to finish the year in the red. So we're doing okay there that we're still in the black. But as far as cash goes, we don't start drawing cash till later in the year too. So, I mean, one idea, because I know that I heard that a couple people said, well, you used to put money in the rainy day fund. We did that for a few years because that's what I learned when I first got hit at my AIC meetings. That's what everybody does. The problem is the counties that do it have a lot more cash in the bank, and so they can cushion it with that. We can't. And so the state kind of stepped in when they saw that too, and almost sort of penalized. We don't have the cash there either is the problem. So, but we can't do anything with that 82,000 until our next meeting.
Well, yeah, do you want me to do an additional appropriation for January 19th?
Yeah, and I think we have a
So
choice.
as a reminder, January 18th, we're closed that day, so your council meeting will be on January 19th, which is a Tuesday.
You need a motion for that.
Yes, please.
Make a motion, we do an additional appropriation from jail seated in the amount of $82,107 for the sheriff's department retirement.
I have a motion from Brad. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is that you, Howard?
Yes.
We have a second from Howard. I got distracted for a second there. There was this gigantic head with a fancy pair of headphones like coming up to the screen.
What is it?
Hi,
Those are nice
Freddie.
headphones you got, Freddie.
Hi, Freddie.
Hi.
Hey, that's how I hear.
Comb your hair, Fred.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay, and so I think the only thing I'd like to say while we still have the merit board on is that I'd really like to see, like, starting next year, maybe we could make this less adversarial. I mean, they're gone.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, we're,
Oh,
You know, it's always this fire and brimstone that you get from your administrator. And then there's this discussion about, oh, we're gonna sue the county and everything else. Well, you gotta be careful what you wish for, because the council may decide, you know, hey, let's just take on that court battle and we're not gonna pay it. I mean, but we always work with you guys. I mean, I don't think we need to get that far. The bottom line is I don't know how to help you see this any other way. Like, there's no money here and it's gonna get worse. And, you know,
They said
we
hi
sit
to
here and look at transfers and we're going, oh, guess what? We're over in this, but we're gonna put it somewhere else. We're over in this, we're gonna put it somewhere else. We've got cash to buy this, but we don't have cash to put into the pension.
No.
I really would ask the sheriff's department that if you can look at your budget in 21 and help us with this. We're gonna need help in 21.
Dave, we talked about this for the last 5 years that I've been in sheriff. And I know we've talked about it when Oscar was sheriff. We've tried making these line items and we have not made any headway on it.
Yeah, line items in the county general for the county paid. I'm saying, help us, you know, give up some of your, you know, areas too. I mean, that's the only way it's gonna work.
I mean, we do try, we put in half the sheriff's cells, we do the golf carts, we do the alarm fees, the civil service. I mean, we try to raise our own money to put in there. But I mean, we're gonna keep going negative. We're paying out $230,000 a year in retirees. So we're gonna keep going negative.
I think another thing that needs to be looked at, and somebody had made the comment, 3 out of the last 5 years, money was lost, and that just shouldn't happen. In the last 5 years, there shouldn't have been a negative of money lost in 3 out of the last 5 years.
well, this is kind of how it was explained to me, Howard. We're paying out 14 people and 13 people are paying in right now. Of those 14, 3 of them were sheriffs, so they get more money, right, Bob? Than a normal officer.
So
So
we have 5,
they're
we have 5
paying-
former sheriffs.
paying out a lot more than what they're getting brought in.
But he's talking about the.
No,
earning
I'm
part.
talking about the investment in.
Yeah, their investment.
I'm talking about the
Investment people.
Right. I'm not talking about a ratio of what employees get. I'm talking about the investment earnings.
But the merit,
After-
you know, that's not.
Aren't they?
But anyways, we're gonna work on that
Money every
legislation.
5 years.
Um,
That don't make sense.
For now, I think that you're getting a satisfactory outcome. I mean, you mentioned that 230,000. I believe we're bridging that gap by talking about doing an additional for 82,170. I mean, is that less than what you were expecting, Pam, or is that in line with what you were
Our-
expecting out of this
Our
meeting?
yearly to be paid in was 225,000. So I mean, we're paying out 230. So I mean, our plan goes backwards, so it's hard to really.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying as far as the 82,170 that it wasn't gonna be enough. So,
Oh, no, that
Yeah.
completes it for the year.
do you have any other business for the council?
No, we don't.
No,
No.
no. We are some magic number of allowable that when Marty asks them, they won't tell us what the minimum is.
Yeah.
Where that
That's what- I
percentage
mean, what
around.
I'd like to see too would be like, it's hard to sort through with the information we get. Am I the only one? It's hard to sort through and understand it. I'm not like numerically challenged necessarily. I had a hard time understanding what exactly, was going on and maybe it's doing better than it looks, but it doesn't. I mean, I share some concern that the investments haven't really performed that well. Maybe I'm misunderstanding it, though. It would be nice to see more detail in what's going on in the transactions.
I'm finding out,
Does everybody, yeah.
I agree.
and I'm also finding out that out of the grand scheme of things, at least is this, we had a Zoom meeting on this. And from what the other people that are involved in this at the next level are saying is that we're not the only ones too that are having problems with this management firm. 75% of the sheriff's departments are with the ones that our people like, with Elaine, and when she changes. And they're on the bottom of the earning against the other ones that are used, but most of them do use Elaine. And whoever she changes to, periodically. So it's not like it's unique about Stark County. She's a good saleswoman, that's her job, but hopefully the state will, get that straightened out. So, did you have anything else, guys?
No.
Thank you. We're gonna move on.
Thank you.
We'll wait and ask them how they feel about J. One thing we didn't do is we didn't ask the sheriff how they feel about J&K. But maybe we could get some feedback on that.
They may
We're
still
gonna
be
talk
on.
about it.
The what?
Was there something
Well,
else you were asking? I'm
okay.
sorry.
Oh, Bill, are you still on?
Yeah,
We were just kind of talking earlier with Mr. Hurley from J&K about this bill that Jay never really could actually explain correctly, and then he explained it tonight, and it turns out that it was for interference, but since it was caused by somebody else and not some natural cause, that we were on the hook for it. And so it's odd that we're paying a $50,000 annual service, but I guess we really never asked your opinion. I mean, you've been involved before you were the sheriff so many years with all the others that we've had and everything else. Would you say that you're leaning more towards you're happy with the service from J&K, or neutral or negative?
I'm fine with what they provide us.
That's valuable feedback. Well, I don't know if you guys were on when we talked to Mr. Hurley, were you?
Yeah.
Okay, well then that we're gonna revisit it at a later date, so then we just have a bunch of transfers here. We'll just start with them in order.
Tell me where you start.
So,
Hey, Dave,
yes,
hey,
yes.
do you want us to contact that four-way?
If you guys know them, yeah, that'd be great, because maybe Four-Wheel to say, hey, we'll pay the bill, because what was frustrating for us is it sounded like Hurley wasn't even willing to do that, like, that's fine. Contact them themselves, but yeah, maybe the sheriff's department might have more leverage.
Maybe you could get their side of the story.
Or if you see one of their trucks driving around, just arrest them.
He's joking.
I'm joking. But, yeah, thank you, Bill, that would be great.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Maybe you can.
Okay, we can do that.
That might be, it might just be easy to settle it then, and we're all happy. I don't know, we'll see.
Pam, if you find anything out about that, will you let me know?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
So the first one that we have here is the circuit court for Pettit jurors. Furniture, or the reduction is there, but for the remodel. And so I'm just gonna go out and, on a limb here for just myself, but at first I raised question with Rachel on this because we already put $150,000 in the remodeling. Yeah, and then, we were nailed for extra on top of that, so I was a little taken back, but apparently it's for painting 3 rooms that were not included in the original remodel. I'm in the wrong business. So, anyway, if any of you were thinking the same thing, like, didn't we pay for a big remodel bill?
Why wasn't it included? Why wasn't
Because it wasn't in our budget that we gave them
Oh,
to
I
begin
see,
with.
okay.
Would be
What kind
my
of money
guess.
do you think it would? But the tile was 10,000 just for the little bathroom. So,
And the curtain.
Don, why did you hit on that?
Great.
Yeah,
Make a motion, we approve a reduction in Pettit jurors in the amount of 8,000 and move that into remodel and furniture in the same amount for the circuit court.
I'll second it.
we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? That'll be all in favor. And then the next one is the prosecutor. Is the prosecutor joining us via teleconference?
He was having trouble. I don't know
Some of you may have been confused by these transfers because I was at first, and I hope that next year's budget understanding of budgeting and things will be better or different or
Leslie, are you still having trouble with your microphone?
You have her muted or is she muted?
She was having trouble with her microphone.
Since we last spoke, have you spoken to the prosecutor about her 4D fund?
Yeah, she said she's, can't talk.
When you spoke with her before, did she say that the 4D
Did
fund
she
was
phone
gonna
in?
catch up by the end of the year? Or what's her plan with that? Sir,
Hold on. Hi, Leslie.
Plan B.
so we're at Plan B, Leslie. I think you've already kind of talked to Rachel about how this should be budgeted next year on this health insurance stuff and where those all sit. What was the other question I had about this thing when you talked about this? It wasn't 40, it was the PTD fund. Essentially then, after this, where does the prosecutor's whole budget sit as far as being?
Well,
black or
so
red?
in county general, she has 008 and 0032, which is pretty much just payroll and benefits. Everything else, office supplies, any training, everything else comes out of PTD, which doesn't, I mean, especially this year, it just doesn't make money.
So, I guess our question about the PTD is, Leslie, I mean, like, how do you feel looking at next year? I mean, depending on where things are at, like, we might have to put the brakes on some of that here.
Spending.
Theoretically, I mean, where does PTD stand today, do you know?
Uh,
Well, I will say that
2000.
the PTD
2000.
fund is very much struggling. If you take into, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but if you take into consideration that for about 4 months out of the year, we basically told the police departments to stand down and not engage in any kind of traffic stops or any type of issuing infractions because we wanted to minimize their interaction with the public. Excuse me, that caused the PTD fund to take a very large hit in terms of just the minimal interaction the police have with the public. You're looking at not having any traffic control for infractions, and you're looking at a lot fewer pre-trial diversions of city court cases because the interaction just didn't happen. And so your minor nonviolent misdemeanor cases, which could potentially result in a PTD, just that's not there. And I mean, I don't even think you could say that over the summer that the police really started engaging the public in anything more essential than necessary because there was the concern of them being exposed to COVID. And so I don't have a very good feeling about how the fund is going to be going into 2021, just simply because of those missing interactions with the public.
Yeah.
We can't go back and make up that money that's been lost.
Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility too, like there could be less recidivism, there could be less crime. I mean, there's some possibilities there. I guess the only thing that concerns me looking into next year, and then especially the year after that, could get worse. So I'm just a little bit concerned in general about PTD and the spending side of it. But Rachel told me that you're only at 2,000 now. So,
Well, and I mean, in my opinion, one department should not rely on a revenue-driven fund for their office supplies, their training. She's gonna have to build some things into county general. That's what needs to be done. Some of the spending in office supplies and trainings and things, purchases need to be built into county general, not just come out of PTD. It's logical.
so I think what Rachel's saying is, I think earlier than the budget workshop, we need to get together next year.
Yes.
Because I've actually been thinking about that too and talking to a couple of other counties. Brad actually reminded me of something that I meant to ask Rachel about this though when I was reviewing these with her. This miscellaneous distribution fund, what is that? I thought we took that out. Is that something that's in there by some kind of statute?
So no, miscellaneous before 2019, all of the PTD was deemed as all miscellaneous. when she did her first budget, we had her break down almost everything except for that you guys did leave a small miscellaneous.
And part of, I think, the reason for so many transfers is that when I did my first budget, there wasn't really anything to base it on in terms of the history, just because everything was miscellaneous. So I tried to look through and make, judgments based upon what it had happened previously. But like for this year, I will say we've done less in terms of training because we haven't had the opportunity to go to in-person training. So normally we would spend X amount of dollars on our very conferences that we have in the spring, summer, as well as winter. Plus, we would have like travel associated with that, and we didn't have any of those. So the things that I budgeted for wasn't necessarily taking into consideration COVID.
We'll work on this next year. Yeah. We're gonna work with you next year. I just had a couple questions. That's all I have. Does anybody else have anything before we look for a motion on this? Entertain a motion.
Great. Make a motion, we approve a reduction in training in the amount of $49.15, printing and duplicating in the amount of $37.45, office supplies in the amount of $45.99, health insurance in the amount of $9,000. Move those to printer and copier in the amount of $593.76, law books $1184.41, miscellaneous disbursement $68.81.83, Social Security $14.50, health insurance $31.49, health insurance $17.63.30, perps $72.36.70.
A motion, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Are you an aye on that, Fred, or
I'm an aye.
is there any opposed? Okay, so moving on to the treasurer, and I kind of have a question on that one, Kay, only just from the perspective of looking at the statutes that are in place for, running offices. I think that at the very least, we just need to ask, what time period is this need for extra help coming?
Well, at the time I asked, I wasn't sure if we were going to be needing any more for the end of the year because you didn't know if my deputy would be positive. I had a negative 310174 that I was fixing. That's going to leave 1896 in that fund, and it appears I don't need it. So I wouldn't need the full transfer if you didn't want to do the full transfer. Not that it really matters where it ends up in the budget.
Doesn't really matter at this point based on where we're at with our cash on hand, so.
I tried not to spend much at all because I didn't know what kind of year we were going to be facing. And I didn't need the postage. And I'm not using the mileage.
Okay. I mean, it's just something that, like obviously we've each one of the council gets, different reports of, when people are in their office, when they're not. As far as just covering, our obligation, I just had to ask that. And so personally, I don't have any further questions on that, but does anybody on the council or the commissioners have anything before we look for a motion on that? Somebody want to make that
Make a
motion?
motion, we transfer.
Dave, the extra help is mostly used during the tax receiving in May and November.
Well, I'm just making a note with Rachel, since you mentioned COVID, this isn't the first time we've looked at budgets where we've seen where some extra help opportunities had slipped through. So I'm just, also a learning experience on our side too. So, but we have a motion. Is there a second? Or start of a motion?
Make a motion, make a reduction in postage, mileage, printing statements in the amount of $4,950 or $5,000, and move that into extra help in the amount of $5,000.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Have a second from Kay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Clerk's office. Looks pretty straightforward. Is there any discussion on that? Or does somebody want to make a motion?
Make a motion, make a reduction in official records in 1,000, office supplies in 50, move that into postage in amount of 1050. And oh, man, she's got all kinds of them.
Three total.
A reduction in clerical in the amount of 1,033.29, move that into newspaper. A reduction in clerical in the amount of 6642.59, and move that into election supplies.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
For all those elections.
Second.
The first one's not election.
Is there any further discussion, Commissioners, anything? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And is there any opposed? The Highway Department, I do believe that the superintendent did give us a preview that there were gonna be some needs for bituminous and aggregates. He's got a few here though, they're not all the same thing. He's got 4 total. Some of them he had made us aware. It may be easier to make these individually. That's well, actually, maybe just the social security and FICA is separate. 1169, 1176. 1176. 1135. Oh, I mean, we've been doing blanket motions. A lot of stuff.
Just approve the minutes. I'll work it out.
How should we make a reduction? You want them all together? Is that good with you, Ray?
That's fine.
Make a motion, we make a reduction in social security in the amount of 963.64. Move that into repair trucks and tractors in 904.84. Repair road equipment in 58.80. A reduction in health insurance in the amount of 10,000. Construction inspector clerical in 2,500. Construction inspection support 2,500. Bridge inspection 3,000. Bridge repair and equipment 2,000. Move that into miscellaneous bridge in the amount of 20,000. Make a reduction in gas, oil, and lube in the amount of 70,000. Health insurance in the amount of 62,500. Mechanics in the amount of 35,000. Repair trucks and tractors in the amount of 20,000. Repair road equipment in the amount of 20,000. Truck driver in the amount of 13,000. Road signs in the amount of 5,015.69. And move that into bituminous in the amount of $225,515.69. And a reduction in trucks in the amount of 8,000. And other road equipment in the amount of 50,000, and move that into stone gravel aggregates in the amount of 58,000.
Good job.
There is a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Don. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Rachel, while we have the highway, I was looking at, I didn't go back and look at the salary ordinance. I had made the recommendation, there's no spread or no range for the truck drivers in the salary ordinance for the county garage. And we were thinking that it might be a good idea to add a range for it. Did you add that to the,
It's,
I have it open right now. What line is it?
it's the very last page.
Oh, good. I'm in the spreadsheet right now. It's right there.
I put all the ranges up here.
Truck driver 1766 to 1866.
Everything's the same.
Okay, so salary ordinances, and then we'll go back to the EMA request, but since the salary ordinance really, that was the major change. that was the purpose for that, if anybody was wondering. It doesn't make sense that the other departments that we don't have a bottom and then also a top that reflects the other competitive pay. And so it would just be at the discretion of the superintendent. Sorry that we're not, I love that Pluto too, by the way, but.
That's my wife. This is her workstation for INDOT.
Goofy, yeah. See, I've been away from that stuff for too long.
Obviously, you don't go to Disney as much as I do.
No, I need to. I love it. But we will just afford that discretion to the department head, just like we have with other cases. So, were there any other discussion or questions or anything about the salary ordinance?
Make a motion to approve the salary ordinance for 2021 as written.
We have a motion to approve the salary ordinance for 2021 as written. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Kay. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed?
Okay, okay.
I'm sorry, who
All
was
in
the
favor, it
second?
was all in favor.
Who's the second? Okay.
And then the last thing was, I just want to commend our award-winning auditor. I haven't done that in a while, but she has been very instrumental in holding together what was left behind for the EMA. That transfer there is to clean her books up. But I also will say, and I don't know, I copied you on that email to the state too about the LEPC, so I'll find out what we need to do for that.
This transfer is actually for, Commissioner Cavender had the EMA car looked at, so she didn't have any money in garage and motor, so to fix the EMA car.
Thank you for not buying a brand new vehicle. Please do not buy any more brand new vehicles. We have this cash issue going on, you know what I mean? And so, like, there aren't any vehicles planned to be bought at the next meeting, are there? I mean, are any big, obviously, once we budget you the money, but, just for help for us, we could kind of, regroup after the first year, sorry. I know we have other vehicles that are, obviously starting to age as well.
I need a new vehicle.
I knew that was coming. Do we have a motion for the EMA transfer?
Make a motion, we make a reduction in the amount of $505.12 EMA director. And transfer that into garage and motor in the amount of $505.12. And you can drive that car tomorrow.
Oh, thank you.
One day,
One day, just one day?
Yeah.
Okay,
Just remember, you're gonna pay taxes on it.
only in the parking lot.
only in the.
The only other thing I had personally was, I just wanted to let everybody know, this is just a side thing, but maybe people know this.
Second, who's the second on that?
Oh, I'll do it.
Did we not?
We didn't
We
finish.
never- Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we finished it. All in favor on the EMA transfer? I'm pretty sure we did.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? All in favor? I don't know if everybody's aware that Studio Printers was bought by Bowen Printing in Plymouth. So just out of out of courtesy, if you're ever, because one of the things I hate in Stark County is we don't have a FedEx drop location. Just for everybody's knowledge, and since the media is on this too, they are a FedEx service center, not just a drop box. So they have all Studio Printers business, and they have that. I didn't know that till today, so just in case other people, because it's sometimes I need to get something out overnight, and there's the time's ticking. Their express drop off is late too. It's like 4 p.m. or something. So just so you know,
CVS does UPS drop box?
like
Is it
with a
UPS?
staff, like this is a staff desk. Is that what they have at CVS now too? or-
For UPS.
Really? Okay, well then you can also do it for UPS at CVS. It's just, sometimes I hate it in Stark County when we don't have stuff, but at least Plymouth, because normally I would go to Valpo, but at least, you've got that, so. Is there anything else from the group? We have something from the auditor.
So we got all of our CARES money reimbursed. It's long story short, we got all of our CARES money, and there's an extra $36,000. What do you want me to do with it? We need to spend it. So
Why
now
don't we do some of these?
I can put it in county general, or I have another suggestion.
Put in Rachel's new car.
Wait a minute, how much is it?
About $36,000.
Okay.
So the coroner did not get anything from the CARES money. And as you know, the coroner is still being affected by COVID. You could purchase a new vehicle for the coroner because it is older vehicle.
I just said no new vehicle.
It's true.
Commissioners. Well, but it's going to county general though, I mean, so
No,
theoretically,
it's going into our grant fund.
but I mean, we just went through a bunch of things that legitimately we could say would qualify for that in county general.
It's going into our grant fund right now. It's in our grant. fund.
Right, what I'm saying is we could justify transferring that though, moving that around based on a bunch of the stuff that we saw just tonight. But, how would the commissioners feel about maybe a used Suburban or something like that?
Something that would accommodate what he needs, I guess.
I mean, because
I've
they
talked to
usually have an
Jack.
SUV. I talked to Howard about this and.
I've talked to Jack a little bit about it. You know, Jack's a fine man and he's very,
Mhm.
Jack's not a pushy man whatsoever. He's a fine gentleman and he's trying to do a good job. And I think he'd probably be, I don't know, but I mean, I would assume, I think the car they're using is old.
Mhm.
I think it's a hand-me-down from the sheriff's department, if I remember right.
And not just, I mean, for future coroners,
Right.
I mean, if we
It- it's not something that he don't need a new car. They don't need a new car every year, every
Right.
2 years, every 3 years. They're probably putting 200 or 300 miles on one a month versus what a sheriff's department or a county road vehicle would be used. So I think a good used vehicle would probably be very sufficient in my opinion. But I do think with some of the situations they get into, an all-wheel drive or a four-wheel drive would be needed.
And honestly, in my experience, you know, so many years in the fire department, Brad, I'm sure has seen the same thing. Many times we have the coroner going off-road.
Right.
A lot of times when they don't have it, like LaPorte County, they always have a Suburban, and they usually help us in the past, had helped us in drownings and different things like that. But there are other times with Stark County where we've had to use our own vehicles, you know, and go to the, you know, victim and then, you know, help with getting them to the road or whatever. So,
I'm just saying, you know, one department that really is affected by COVID did not use any of the CARES money. This is something that,
And they are, and
Is this something that we should ask Jack about? See if that's what he would want to spend money on?
I know that's what he wants.
yeah, we talked.
yeah, and Howard,
We've-
you actually talked to him about it.
He's talked to me, I think he's talked to Rachel. He talked to me that he'd be happy with like a Ford Explorer. You know, not as big as a Suburban. And I'm not real sure, their garage space out there, and I'm not positive. I don't know this for sure, but Freddie might know. I don't know what, can you hear me, Fred?
Yeah.
I don't know if with the more, I don't know if the morgue garage out there would handle a full-size Chevy Suburban or not as far as adequate parking space. But I know Jack had told me that like a Ford Explorer or something like that would be efficient for him. But you had a hand in building, you know, in the morgue building, and I don't know if there's room for a great big car in there.
I think that,
You know what I mean?
right, I think that the one he's got is about as long as a Suburban.
Is it? Okay.
But irregardless, he has to raise the garage door and pull it out.
Yeah. But he'd expressed to me like a Ford Explorer would suffice.
That'd be fine with me.
Yeah, you know.
Or a Tahoe.
Yeah.
A Tahoe is a short
Like
one,
a
right?
Tahoe would be closer.
Yeah, you just got to make sure the Tahoe's got the length to it to put a cot in it.
I think a Tahoe and
Why
Explorer.
don't you run out there and measure that,
Little
Fred?
similar.
And it probably, you know, a Suburban's about a foot
But
longer
the
than a
CARES money
Tahoe.
has to be approved by the CARES board though, too.
Ours
right?
is quite a bit bigger than it. We have a Yukon XL. That's
Yeah, they're
quite a bit
longer.
bigger
That's
than,
technically the only
Tahoe,
person
yeah.
that has to approve it,
Okay,
is Commissioner Chesick.
so, I mean, maybe just let the
And,
commissioners.
and I see what you're saying about putting it, you know, trying to come up with our shortfulls with overtime and county general
Right, we
stuff,
just named out
but,
20,000 worth of
but
shortfalls in overtime
I
that we should have paid for.
but it's grant money and you can't move from fund to fund to fund. And plus you'll screw up my whole.
No, that's not true, because I was
Yes,
at
it
that, I
is.
was at that original CARES
We
meeting. and they
can, but it
specifically
will screw
said
you up.
Exactly.
to pay overtime. Like, that was the number one thing the state wanted to do, was to pay overtime, so you had extra money in your budget for operations. They said that at the governor's meeting.
I'm doing a whole resolution with the commissioners tonight, requesting that all of that money gets put in the COVID grant fund. You're gonna mess all of that up if you do that.
We're good at messing
But
this
that's a
stuff up.
COVID expense. I don't understand what you're talking about. Like, that's irresponsible not to pay those with the COVID money.
You just have to talk to me about it tomorrow. There's a lot to it. Am I not wrong that there's a lot to it?
It's pretty, things got kind of scrambled.
Yes.
I would say that there, you know, the procedural history of how they used the money, it's even hard to make sense out of it in a way. And so what we're doing is, you know, the ordinance is based on guidance from the
State board.
State Board of Accounts, that is kind of, well, let's put it this way, it was designed to deal with probably what is maybe not a very good bureaucratic decision. And so we kind of got hemmed into a box, Dave. I don't know. So it might not make sense, unfortunately, but that might be what we kind of have to do. You might, you know, I can show you what happened.
There's background to it.
Yeah, there's
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
There's an unfortunate background.
I'm just making sure, like, I'm not, you know, I just voicing like, the two things they said to pay for were hours for people, PPP, and they also named attorney fees that are associated with things that are
They
going
did.
on during COVID.
Within the last 60 days, they just completely changed the procedures of
Okay,
it.
well, I'm
and-
gonna send a hate mail to the governor's office tomorrow.
Yeah.
It just makes me mad.
I can send you the history on that. I mean, I did go through it on the, I don't know what to say, you know, and it's like the SBOA, I mean, the State Board of Accounts really issued this guidance just to kind of help. And what I would advise a lot of caution in following that guidance. Really, we were very tight, you know, I mean, we were very careful about following it because it sort of doesn't make a lot of sense in a way.
I just hate the fact that they said, though, that was for the number one thing was labor. I mean, they told us
Right,
that.
but then they changed, you know, they did, and then they changed, then they got some other direction, somebody got, I don't know what happened there exactly, but somebody got an idea and they changed the rules, and then they, you know, I can show you the history of this. No, that's totally correct.
Mm.
Unfortunately, they weren't consistent after that. Is that a fair way of saying it? Yeah.
Yes.
So, but back to the coroner's office, because I believe Howard mentioned this to me as well. Aren't we short on autopsy fees? Like, that would fall under COVID dollars too.
Not right now. I mean, he's fine for this year.
He is, okay.
Yeah, and I've talked to him and
Or was
he's,
it something else?
Well, I think he was running really close,
yeah, but we worked it out.
but Rachel and him worked that out, so.
And he doesn't expect to have this next year, but who knows?
Well, I don't think that you have to worry about it. We don't have any authority to tell you what to do with that money then, so I don't want to imply that it is. So buy whatever vehicle you want, Charlie.
Yeah. Well, that,
I love my bird.
You probably not gonna get that.
I know I think the coroner, not just Jack, but I think the coroner's office has been working with that vehicle for better than probably 6 years now. And I know it was a sheriff's department throwaway when they got it.
I think that was originally Oscar's. That's why it was
Yeah,
so low miles and such
yeah.
good shape, because, you know, it was one of the cheap sheriff.
And I think he's taken a lot better care of the vehicle than previous administration in that office had.
Well,
And then what will we do with that? We'll make that an EMA vehicle, or what would the purpose be of it? Like, what's the next, do you know what the next person waiting for a vehicle is?
Well, I mean, yeah, EMA would be, because the EMA has a charger out there now, so that would be probably better than that.
okay. Really need a vehicle.
Well, and it.
Or you could
since
put it
it's
in the county auction. I mean,
Since it's gonna be a part-time though, I don't know if we can expect though, even part-time though, that they would use their own vehicle. They're probably.
For what? Where do they go?
That's actually a good point. We're gonna have to map that out and we figure out who that's the other thing we should just briefly
30
talk about
calls
is
last year,
the
never
EMA
saw one.
advisory board. We haven't really determined that yet, but there's like 40 people that she added to it, but working with Rachel, we need to figure out who should be, there should be like an executive board, like you don't have 50 people interviewing somebody and, you know, because I'm just gonna say, I went to those meetings and sometimes I was really, really upset about even wait, you know, I don't want to say waste, but spending that amount of my time for nothing. I don't want to make this, you know what I mean? Well, you were at those meetings, they were terrible, right? So anyways, we're trying to figure that out, but I think we pretty much all in agreement, we'll just wait till the
Well,
first of the year, right?
We were hoping to have somebody to them for their first meeting the first of the year. But since we're at kind of a stalemate on who is actually on that board, but I talked to Rachel too. On the application online, there's no date of when the last date is to turn your application in. So I think that's something that you guys need to decide, when the last date is to turn the application in.
Well, in theory, well, it's still gonna be their first meeting. So you wanted it by the first, we may be able to do that if we can get everybody together. Now, this is just my
You just
thought,
calm it down.
thinking out loud,
You
is
have
that
nothing else to do.
as far as like executive guidance of that board, and I called the state, nobody's given me any clarification. They don't really know, but it makes sense that it would be the elected officials that would be the ones that would be sort of like the executive committee, not every single town. We have people from, you know, the township trustees, like we can't fill this meeting room. We can't even put that many people in here
So that's
that were on that
you,
board.
Charlie, Denny.
Right. Does that make sense to you, Charlie?
Yep. Which I sent this to Rachel and somebody else that had asked. Let me see if I can find it.
While he's looking, Marty, does that make sense to you?
Well, I don't know that much about the background. I wasn't aware we had a very large board doing that.
It's not supposed to be.
Yeah,
It was something
I
that
mean,
she did.
certainly you
But
can't.
what would happen, Marty, is there's a LEPC board and an EMA advisory board, and she'd just throw them all together and have a meeting all together. You can't. There's two different boards, and then people that are on LAPC think that they're on the
Right.
EMA board.
And the state's just not real strict about defining that either, but as far as the
They could
EMA,
get strict, I suppose, yeah.
yeah, but in theory, like when we started out, it was only a few people on that EMA advisory board.
Do you
Like
have,
Brad
is
said,
there
it
an
was all
ordinance of
LPC.
any kind that, I don't recall doing an ordinance that set out who was gonna be the executive board for that. You might need to do that.
It's set by the state. I have it
Here's-
in my office. I have the. I
Okay.
have-
We'll try to have
supposed
an
be on-
EMA advisory board meeting, so
Yeah.
that way you could have it for your first
Yeah, they
meeting,
have
but
the-
we had to wait for the state for the answer. Is that all right with you?
Yeah,
Because you would be involved in that meeting anyway.
Yeah.
We can talk to Debbie,
Right.
see what fits her.
This is the last
Got it,
email I got from her
essentially.
sent out to the EMA advisory board members.
Okay,
It's Bill,
makes sense.
Kathy Benko,
It doesn't make sense.
Charlie, you, Charlie, Denny, Harold Smith, Kenny Post, Sharon Crick, Stormy Friday, don't laugh, Travis Clary,
Which Stormy's from the state, remember?
right, Bose, myself, and Rachel.
Okay, so
That's the last one that I have from her, and that was March 11th of 2020.
So theoretically, though, Frank would be the main health department, like, you know what I mean, like even those.
I
like,
think
maybe he
so, but
delegated that.
I
but-
think he delegated it to
Yeah,
Bose.
so I mean, I think we all look at that's a good idea, look at the original emails, I have some original ones. That also, like, even back to the Ted Bobaghetti days, is to see who was that, you know, there then. Because, again, like, I don't know though, but maybe Kathy Benko is representing all 7 townships, but I don't wanna make that assumption. But there is a possibility that maybe that got streamlined somehow. I was at most of the meetings. The ones I wasn't there, you were probably there, or, you know, there was a mixture of different of us there. Rachel was there. I don't ever remember a discussion of any motions to expand what is guided to be that board. So,
I shouldn't think that, you know, if all those people are on the board and gonna do the interviews, we shouldn't have 20 people in here right now.
Well,
No.
Can we do something like this, Marty? Can the commissioners make a motion to dissolve the board and then restart the board and appoint who they want on the board?
They don't appoint who they want on the board. It's set by the state. It's
That's the
the,
thing, I gotta look at the statute on that and see what it says. I'm
I,
sure there is
I
one,
have,
right?
yeah, there is an IC code on it.
Right.
So who needs to be on?
It's the president of the council, the president of the commissioners, any mayors in your county of any towns or cities. Somebody representing police force, somebody representing the trustees,
Right.
Okay, so
and
maybe they can make
any,
those all of the time.
and any individual, any other individuals that was appointed by the EMA council or advisory board.
Which that would be.
Why couldn't
We never had
why
anything
couldn't
like
the
that.
EMA
Approve
board
appointing more people.
amongst themselves establish an interviewing committee of 4 to 5 people amongst their board? Instead of having, like you said, you don't want 20 people, why can't they actually establish and appoint a 4-person
I remember
interviewing
the
committee?
original board was, how it
Can they
was
do
actually.
that? What's wrong with that?
The true original
And then
board
report
doesn't
to the
have that
board.
many on it, actually. She was
That's
just
12.
increasing it.
What was in that email is 12.
Yeah, like if you go according to the IC code, there's only like 7 people, 6 or 7 people.
It makes sense to
In
start
my
with
opinion-
whatever that is. We'll have
Well,
Marty
I mean,
look at
that's
it.
what I would advise, of course, is you just do what it says in the statute, and unless there's somebody that doesn't show up or whatever. Yes, they might be able to have an executive, they could probably have a committee that then made a report if they wanted to do that. I don't know if I want to stick my neck out on that without looking at it, but probably they could do that, yes. But, the statute says it, and that's who it is. I mean, you can't change it, you can't add people, I don't think. You could maybe have somebody not show up, but you'd have to give them notice. But I don't think you can, change what the statute says.
So we'll wait and let Marty review that more, if it's okay with you, Charlie.
Yep.
And then we'll get together and we'll try to have a meeting still in time for your first meeting, which is what date?
January 4th.
I should be able to send you out an email the next day or two that says what that is. That sounds simple enough, but I would want to
An
look at it.
issue
make sure
is-
there was any-
There's a lot of stuff that needed to be, that needed to be done by the end of the year. And there's nobody there to do it.
Actually, we're at the last list. I emailed them today. The last thing we need is the LEPC hazmat plan.
I
But
think
I don't
that's
think I have
what
a
Kenny
copy.
was trying to get. Post texted me last week. He was trying to get in there because there was something, and it might have been that he was trying to find.
I emailed the state today and copied Rachel. I'll add you to that. That way you can see what she says.
I think I did
Tell
most of
Kenny.
everything else.
Actually, there was only one thing in red still. It was just the LEPC hazmat plan, but I thought, just give us the last year and we'll update it. That would be the most sensible.
Make sure the right names are in there.
Well, and that office is stuff full of PPE for COVID right now.
Yeah, I mean, between Haswalker and Sarah Title III, I mean, it's outlined pretty clearly. I mean, we'll just have to get that part of it. But we have to have that you're right, by December 31st. But I emailed her today, and I'll add the other EMA advisory board, just that email chain, and Marty. I may have already copied that to Marty, but I emailed her those again today to ask for the old one. Theoretically, she would have submitted it last year.
Sure.
Yeah, because everything else Rachel has done, so. So I'll just ask, is there anything from the public that's joining us having business for the council? I'm going to ask if the commissioners would like us to remain, or are you okay if once we adjourn,
You can
need us?
adjourn.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Go right
You
ahead.
can second it.
Nope,
I don't want
Okay,
anything to do with it now.
second from Brad. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
We can hear rock and roll playing in those headphones the whole time, Freddie.
Okay, good deal.
We like rock and roll,
Oh, good to see you, Doug.
Oh, yeah, you too.
Oh, well.
though. Actually, it's my only comment.
You take care.
Bye-bye. Have a good Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, Howard. Merry Christmas, Dave. Merry Christmas, Bob. Wow.
Just released.
Were you able to see that in there? What the fee actually was?
That was not in the information.
It's a hidden fee. You're not supposed to know that.
Yeah, I mean, let's see, that's one of the first things I want to know.
Before, I seem to remember that it was like 6%, and that's another thing that causes it to be negative because the fees are so high.
That's what I figured, right? I mean, there's a million and one reasons. First thing I want to know is whether they actually
And then.
pay themselves. Not that they shouldn't. pay
No,
themselves.
right, yeah,
But I mean, yeah, you know,
Not technically,
yeah.
yeah.
But what
but
surprises
we'd like to
me.
know how much.
Yeah, it surprises me though, that the guys that are, they're not going to certify, hey, that's my money, make me money. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
I was doing something stupid on my 401k. I had it all in real safe. And a friend of mine, she's a financial person, and she's like, we gotta look at your 401k. And she's like, you nuts? She goes, people have been making like thousands of dollars if you're making 58 cents.
Yeah, right.
I changed it. I didn't have that much in there even. But shoot, I was making thousands.
Kathy, is that
Yeah.
flowers behind you?
Big difference, right?
Yes, it is. Aren't they beautiful?
Yes.
You're
Oh, yeah,
welcome.
now I can see them.
Not only are they beautiful, they are absolutely huge, and they're from Charlie and Brian. And I have a little tear in my eye. Thank you so much, you guys. You are wonderful.
Oh, you're welcome.
I really wasn't expecting them. And when the driver pulled up just about 10 minutes before the meeting, I thought, who could that possibly be? So I made sure I put them where you guys could see them. And thank you so much. That was so nice of you guys. I'm truly, truly touched.
So what's gonna happen with them?
I suppose we get started.
Okay.
I've been lucky to work with some good boards over the last 12 years.
Okay,
I suppose I ought to move down there instead of yell across the room at you.
we will continue with our meeting. First up would be courtesy. I think Sean's on here. Sean, are you on here?
Actually, Sean is not. This is Edwin.
Okay, Edwin, yeah.
Sean had to do a public hearing in North Judson tonight.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so this is a public hearing to get any public comments or questions about the COVID-19 response grant that the county had gotten for the food distribution program. The grant was $75,000. $73,125 went to the county to reimburse them for the expenses, and then Curbsy's fee was $1,875. So this is just a public hearing that's required to close out the grant. So we just need to open it up for any public comments or questions.
Hearing.
I'll open the public hearing on the COVID grant.
Is anybody on that once?
Is there anyone online that wants to comment about it or has any questions?
Are the mics open?
If they're muted, they would have muted it themselves.
If there's no comments or questions, I'll close the public hearing on the COVID grant.
Okay. And I think Kathy wanted to talk about possible, Okra has opened up a third round of COVID-19 response grants.
Yes. And actually, I had seen the information come through from the state,
And then the next thing I knew, I got the same information was forwarded to me by one of our state representatives encouraging us to apply for that. So I felt like we would have a friend at the state level that would help us to secure that. But we would need your services to go forward with that. Could you, for the record, Edwin, state overall a brief purpose of that grant?
The purpose of the grant is to assist communities with responding to needs from the COVID crisis. Like I said, this is the third round of these grants that they've gotten. You guys got the first grant for the food distribution program. The second round was only for business grants. That was all they funded. This third round, they've got several different eligible activities. You can do public services such as mental health services, provide new or expanded childcare services, provide new or expanded public Wi-Fi locations, provide expanded food bank or pantry services, establish a subsistence payment program, and then you can also provide grants to businesses or provide loans to businesses. And that seems to be the list of eligible activities for this round of funding. I'm not sure.
Out of that list, go ahead.
No, I said I'm not sure exactly how much they have to give out this round. I haven't heard. They didn't say for sure.
Well, as I understand it, the stimulus, the feds finally came up with a stimulus, so there should be more money forthcoming with that. But out of that list, the thing that interested me the most was public Wi-Fi, supporting public Wi-Fi, and the food services and loans for businesses. But here's the catch here. This is my very last meeting. So as you know, I did not run again for re-election. So I really can't or shouldn't really be taking a vote on this. I don't feel like it should be up to Brian and Charlie if they want to pursue it. I don't think it never hurts to pursue it. Nothing ventured, nothing gained as far as I'm concerned. But what do you guys think?
We better pursue it. Better.
Right. It's a maximum of 250,000, but you can split that between the different eligible activities, so it doesn't all have to go to one activity. There is no local match required. You do get extra points if you provide up to a 10% match, so that would be up to, you don't have to.
And when's the deadline on that, Edwin?
There's a proposal due January 29th, and the full application is due February 26th.
And do you feel comfortable pursuing that on our behalf if we motion to go for that?
Yeah, that's fine. Just to let you know, I know the city of Knox is looking at possibly applying again in this round to make grants for businesses also.
Well, yes, I know Dennis mentioned to me he was going to, so.
Something you might consider, I mean, just is that list of contacting some of the agencies that are providing, support, like Community Foundation, St. Vincent de Paul or whatever, and see what they see as needs. There was a little time, so you might find out what they see is an unfulfilled need. It's that's the suggestion. Because some of those may be things like, I don't know what the situation is with people with rent is another thing that's been a big issue. A lot of places also people get in and up homeless, and of course landlords. People always think about the person getting kicked out, but the landlords ended up in a pinch too in that situation.
Well, I guess that's up to Charlie and Brian if they want to pursue that, because there's nothing I can do. I'm from this point forward. But I would hate to see money on the table that we could get earmarked for needs here in Stark County if we can get it. Like I say, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
I make a motion that we move forward with working on this new grant. See? Yeah. And pursue the 250,000. Yeah, it'd be $250,000. That would be the motion.
I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Who should be my primary contact in working through the application?
Yeah. Everyone go with Brian Cavendish.
Okay.
Is that it for us, Edwin?
Yeah, that's it for now. I'll be in contact shortly with starting to gather information.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Next up, John Kirk.
Good evening.
Evening.
As part of the third floor courthouse improvements, I just wanted to give you an update on what is happening. So COVID has really hurt our supply chain at this point. So we're continuing to make progress, but right now we're holding chairs for the large courtroom. We're holding on tile for the bathrooms. We're holding on light fixtures for the large courtroom, but we have completed, for the most part, the magistrates court. We've completed the carpeting within the administrative offices on the third floor, and carpet will be going into the large courtroom, and it should be completed by the end of next week. And some of the support structures for the attorney's rail will be going in tomorrow, and then the rest of the rail will go in after the carpet goes in. So we're making progress. It's just unfortunately found out today that the judge's back, it's a faux marble, but it was thought that the material was in the States and they only found one piece out of 3. So we're 10 weeks out now on a piece of faux marble, but the judge has looked at it and said, guess what? Let's keep the order as it is. And we're not anticipating opening the courts up really for some time. So let's complete it right. And it's looking very impressive. The lighting on the pilasters that had the lions' heads are highlighted. So the judge is really excited about that aspect of it. So. And I wanted to commend Kathy, because she's been pretty, she's keeping a thumb on me to make sure this stuff gets done. We'd hope to have it done by election time, but things being what they were, we've been doing our best.
They're familiar. Brian and Charlie are very familiar with my thumb, so. And thanks so much, John. I had hoped this project would be done before I left, mostly because I wanted to get an invitation to the open house, but it will be sometime in the spring, and I guess it's on budget. That's one good thing, but yep. Who could predict the COVID? So thank you for everything, John. I've appreciated everything that you've done for us. And always working in our best interests, and we'll have it'll be a nice place for the judge to work and hold court in.
Right. I mean, I heard at the council meeting they're asking about the painted wall, the wall repair and all that kind of thing. If you recall, there was a list of priorities, and that wall repair was not in the list of priorities. So when they talk about spending all that kind of money, that third floor could still use some paint in some other locations, but I think everyone's going to be very happy with what they have, the investment that's been made, and it should last for a long, long time.
absolutely. But frankly, the council just likes to whine about a lot of things. So there we go. So I can say that as I'm walking out the door there. So. But thank you again. And it does look very nice. And I encourage, I'll probably make one last trip up there after I get out of isolation and take stock of it and take some pictures of it. And it looks nice.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think by the middle of January, there's gonna be an awful lot. The lights are supposed to come in, the seats are supposed to come in. So it's really just gonna be the back setting of the bench that's gonna be incomplete at that time.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
John.
good night.
Next up, Rick.
Okay. If you remember, about 3 months ago, I presented a report from the Purdue LTAP about 2 intersections in the county, 200 North and 700 East, and the intersection of 100 East and 500 South. Now, at the time, the traffic engineer recommended a few smaller options or lesser options instead of adding the 4-way stops. We have installed those things and tried to do what she said, and I will continue with my recommendation on this. 200 North and 700 East. The reason she did not think, there were 2 reasons she didn't think a 4-way stop was warranted there. One was because of the low traffic volumes, and one was because when you put a new 4-way stop in, you are running the risk of the people who normally didn't go through that, didn't have a stop, did not even pay attention, and they just go right through the intersection. That doesn't mean you don't do that. She suggested a couple things that we do first, and we have done those. 2 of the 3. We're doing the next one soon. We cut back the vegetation a little bit, and we added cross traffic does not stop signs, and that's been about 3 months, and there have been no accidents in that time. We are also adding stop bars at the 2 sides that stop on 700 East. Now, that being said, I did not agree with her traffic counts because they had traffic counts of 400 vehicles. And so we put up our devices up there and they came up at about 650 vehicles a day. Traffic engineers tend to work more in urban areas. So their traffic count thresholds are a lot higher than they should be, I think, in rural areas. They don't take into account that rural areas just, even though they have less traffic, there are some roads that are main roads compared to others. I think anyone who lives in that area will know that 700 East is a main road for that area. So I am recommending one of 2 options for the commissioners because this is something you have to vote on for this change. One, we put in the stop bars and see how that works for a while and see if there's any other accidents. Or 2, we put the 4-way stop in with stop ahead signs, new traffic pattern ahead signs, and we publicize as much as possible on WKVI and our website. The danger in that is there could be accidents because people run through that new stop sign. So it's about, either way works for me. I think that eventually it's going to have a 4-way stop there, but this stop bars may work. It's really up to you guys.
I don't know. I think it needs to be a 4-way stop, but really, especially that I know that area there, so.
Yeah, and that's fine, and we can do that, and we can start the process. If you guys vote that in, we can start the process of doing that. And a lot of it is just getting the word out to the public, and then putting the warning signs up. The new traffic pattern ahead signs would stay up for a year, or about a little less than a year.
Yeah.
So if that's the way you want to go, I'm okay with that.
What's the stop bars? What do you?
You've seen them at the big white bars on the roadway. It shows you where to stop.
Yeah.
They do help. They have helped.
I guess we could try that first.
We could do that. We could put the stop bars in and then reevaluate in about 6 months and see what it is.
Let's do that.
And we'll put up the boxes, see if people run through. We can tell from our boxes if people run through. So we can do that. We can do some more study and put up the stop bars.
Okay, let's go that route first.
Okay.
Is that a motion, Brian? I'll second that. All's in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the other intersection is 100 east and 500 south. She actually, there were two, she did say that there's a warrant, this could warrant a four-way stop based on the evidence. However, there was one thing she wanted us to try first, and that was to cut back, talk to the four property owners and see if they would significantly cut back either their farm fields or the trees in there. None of them were very happy about that. In order to make this stop, correct the site distance problem, we would have to chop about 100 feet out into their property. And that's a lot, and that's something we'd have to maintain for a while. So she did say in the report at the end, if that wasn't a viable option, that we could put a four-way stop there. And that one I more readily recommend a four-way stop because of the site distance problem.
That's 100 east and 500.
100 east, 500 south.
Yeah,
Make a motion to put four-way stop on that one.
I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And the next thing, Charlie, if you could sign the community crossings grant contracts with the state, we can start moving on that. These are for the two projects that we were just awarded. 600 east paving at north of 700 north, and the culvert on 300 east.
East Rachel.
And I have one last thing about the driveway permit ordinance. I've read Marty's draft, and I agree. I didn't have any changes on it, and I've also come up with a permit application. So it's really up to you guys to how you want to move ahead with that.
Okay, I like that. To see what is, Rick, you say you got something that you've kind of changed it a little bit, or? I can't see your version of it. Maybe I have to stop out and see your.
Yeah, and it's just basically, it was the same. Marty's version is fine with me. We had a meeting about it, and he put everything in that we had talked about. So I'm fine with his ordinance.
Right. That was on the driveway ordinances.
Yeah.
And we could talk about that more. I mean,
Well, the main thing, the only ones they're really gonna charge for is not gonna be the regular.
Right. Actually,
That would be.
that was one thing we talked about quite a bit
That would
was,
be
you know,
fine.
you just want, I just suggested that you leave yourself the option essentially of charging for when you have a large industrial, like you could have a really, you know, one where it was a, you know, $1 million, you know, factory or something, in which case they would have a lot of traffic. And then in that case, you might, you know, you would have the option of asking them to fund the cost of your engineering. That would not apply to, I don't know, you know, if we've had any that would apply to, have we, Rick?
yeah, we actually did have one when they put in the dollar store on 200 South, just
Right.
east of 35. They wanted to put the driveway in one spot, and we had to hire an engineer to show that it needed to go into another spot. That would be the kind of engineering expense that would be, you know.
And you know, that's a great example too, because the owner there he was real unhappy about that right at first, and I didn't really see why. It seemed like it was clearly like a smarter way to do it was to
Right.
go the side road, but they came around to it, I guess, right?
Right, and that was be the only instance in the last many years that I could think of where that would
Right. It doesn't come up very often. It might come up more often though in the future. You never know. But
It could feasibly come up where you have a hill also.
I think you want to leave yourself that flexibility, but that's not the intention. That when you got somebody's putting their driveway into to pull out of their garage, right?
Right.
So pretty much we're looking at a motion that, like your first.
Yeah, and what Rick's doing is developing the actual forms for people to apply, right? The ordinance is already in the
So
can.
this is gonna be our first reading of it then?
Well, I think this is at least the second reading.
Yeah.
You might want to have one more if you want to do that. This would be your second reading, I
Consider
think.
this one the second reading here.
Yeah.
I would, let's see, I'd like to put the driveway ordinance into
And then you can finalize it at your next meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
That is your motion?
My motion.
I'll second. All those in favor? Aye.
I have one more thing. I gotta say that working with Commissioner Norm has been a real honor. And it has been quite, I don't know what to say. She's done a great thing for the county, and we're very lucky that she served those 12 years.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Yep, thank you.
Do the claims. All right, is there a motion to approve the vendor claims in the amount of $1,193,770.85?
Make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Is there a motion to approve the payroll claims in the amount of $265,540.40?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Copy. All right, now, well, we dealt with this at the last meeting. It was this, the quotes on the surveyor's truck. We ended up approving one, and then this came the following day. I guess he got it, and it was actually, was it like 1,500 or so less than what we had approved for the crew cab, the Ford crew cab. This is a Silverado crew cab for 29,300. That's what this quote is. And then I think we ended up getting from the insurance. I know we got,
It was over 10,000.
yeah, it was over 10,000. So this don't look quite that bad now getting that money. And I think that would come to around 18,000 something. So cost for this. So I think we need to retract that last motion we made on that other, the Ford pickup.
I agree with that, and go with this 2020 Silverado for $29,300.
Cube cab.
Yeah, a cube cab would be a helpful. Whatever that money was at 10,000, so from the insurance company would be put towards this.
That was your motion. I'll second.
I'll second that.
Kathy second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
CARES funds ordinance, CARES Act ordinance. I guess that's just stating.
So we are we're being reimbursed payroll items, but you're basically giving me permission to put it in the grant fund for already purchased items toward COVID related expenses.
So basically, it's just anything that we purchased right now, right?
Well, yeah, and well, and also the extra, because I turned in the full amount that we were owed, so we have an extra like $37,000 that's
Right.
also going into that grant fund.
Okay.
Motion
Motion.
to accept the Stark County Computer Order 20 use of CARES Act fund reimbursement for public health and safety costs. Make that motion.
Or second.
Second.
All those in favor, aye. Next up, GIS map review. So this is what it looks like. I guess what we colors and everything.
Kathy, them colors okay with you now?
Rachel, yeah. Thank you. Yes, yes.
I get everything
Yes,
on top of it. I'm
yes.
sorry.
Thank you.
I sent her, I took a few pictures with my phone and sent it to her today.
No, that looks pretty good. I like that.
Looks pretty good.
I thought so too.
So if you approve of it, then I'll have WTH print the official copy.
Well, that looks good. There a motion to approve the GIS map?
I make a motion to approve the GIS map.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Employee handbook discussion.
I skimmed through it quite a bit.
So did I.
You catch that skim part, Marty?
Well, I have gone through it many times at this point. I don't think I can quite just move my lips when I pick up the page, but it's about to that point. Now, I mean, and you've been through it, Rachel, correct? Very carefully. And, Sheriff's Department was very helpful in their review of it. That was an area that was complicated. As you know, we went through this process with the insurance carrier and they sent back what they thought. And, it didn't really do the way Stark County government works. But I did try to take as much out of that as I could because it had a lot of good things in it too.
Right.
So, I'm sure that we're going to find, it's a complex enough document and long enough that somebody won't be happy. They might not be wrong, right or wrong, but I think I think it's time to move forward, and that it will help protect the county against some. It will help improve our position in defending lawsuits. So I don't know what else to say about it. I think it's, and I do think that I will say this. I think that the way that we approach the thing of because there's all these different rules. That's one of the things that makes it difficult. You have exempt and non-exempt employees. You have department heads. You have elected officials. You have the Sheriff's Department operates as a quasi-military operation. You have the Highway Department has different hours. And we tried to fold all of those into a single document, which was important. And I think that it is pretty successful in that respect. I don't know if you saw they had the little symbols to tell people, so I hope it will be, because I really think it's important that employees be able to read it themselves and understand it, not just make it up, a bunch of legalese that, you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I hope it'll be an improvement. A lot of work went into it.
No, I think it's a big improvement. Yeah, I think we need to move forward and have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the Stark County Employee Handbook for 2021 and start It's first of the year, January 1st.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
I,
I'm pleased to see that. I'm pleased to see that happen. That's been a long, hard
Yeah.
road.
I'll bet.
And then we have the interlocal government agreement for the use of the inspector on the planning commission, the vehicle.
That's, that's.
I guess it's between.
Yeah, I guess the insurance is good with it and, Kenny both the.
I mean, frankly, the main function of that agreement is to satisfy a request from the insurance company that they have a contract, they have a contract. And you know, the state law does encourage interlocal cooperation. And we've done many of those in the past. They've always been good, I think.
Right. No, I thought it looked, I mean, it's simple, so.
Yeah, it's very simple. I try to keep it short.
Yeah. So I think that'll be, well, we gotta have it, so. Their motion to accept this.
Accept the temporary interlocal agreement.
Is there a second?
second,
All those in favor, aye.
Now,
I,
Rachel, that needs to go to obviously to Mayor Eastock next. Now, I just had Mayor Eastock sign it because I don't really think that they need to, I mean, they may want to do more than that, but I think honestly the executive signature on that's sufficient for what they're doing, which is just allowing their employee to use, you know, it's really the commissioners have, I mean, see that.
We have letters of support from the commissioners for 2 projects. I guess one was for develop the Blue Trail, Stark County.
yes,
Another one was for Main Street community of the city of Knox.
yes.
I think they're both good ideas here.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Actually, we have to make a motion. on these, or-
Yeah, I think you should make a motion, and all you're doing is, I mean, you're not making a specific commitment, you're just saying, I think those are good things.
Right.
I really do think that the Blue Trail and Knox Main Street, are both great ideas, and
I support it. I think it's good.
I support it.
Is that a motion?
I think it's a motion.
Is there a second on these?
Since I'm involved in both those projects, I
Okay, yeah.
would like you.
Yep, that's right. I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then, Frank Lynch, vacation time.
Yeah, Frank contacted me today. As you know, he's our only health nurse.
Right.
And with the COVID, he can't even keep up with what he's supposed to be doing by himself. So he has, like, I've gone in a couple of days a week to help, and I think there's someone else that comes in a couple of days, but they're also getting ready for the COVID vaccinations, which will be coming up very soon, I hope. And the bottom line is Frank can't take a vacation right now. There's nobody to relieve him if he does take a vacation. And if our system is set up so that if you don't use it, you lose it. So I believe his use it or lose it time is in March, and he doesn't want to lose his vacation, obviously. So I feel like we need to make some sort of exception for him because of the crisis, you know, that we find ourselves in. So his dedicated service, you know, doesn't get a boot in the butt for not taking his vacation because he can't.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it'd be like a,
I would suggest that you make a motion that based on the governor's declaration of emergency, that that you waive that rule in this case and, you know, allow him to retain his vacation, you know, carry his vacation time over to next year. And in fact, you know, I know you don't normally do it. I'm not saying you should either, but I think you could probably you could also pay him comp time instead if you wanted to do that. I just think,
He has a lot of comp time.
yeah.
He
So
comes in on the weekends and nights, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the one thing that he did mention to me, though. I don't know if there's sufficient monies in his budget to pay him that comp time. However, I'd like to see that motion made, and if there, because for instance, when I work in there, I volunteer, it's for free. But the other lady that works gets paid. So, and there was a small pool of funds. So I do feel like Frank should be paid for all the extra hours he's working too. So if he can squeeze it out of his budget. And even if he can't, I feel like we need to take some of that COVID money and pay him.
I honestly, I'd have to say, I think he probably has a legal right to get paid. I mean, I think that, you know, I think the county needs to pay him for that, is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Find a way to do it if he's gonna do that time. Because he's not, I don't think he's exempt.
No, he's very dedicated employee. And let me tell you, when I hear him on the phone calling those patients, he's really good with them. I'm just amazed at how good he is with the patients on the phone. He's very gentle, very soothing, very knowledgeable. I told him I could work there for a long time and I wouldn't get as good as him. So he's done a great job. So I guess I would make the motion that we waive, it'd be a two-part motion. First of all, that we waive the requirement that he lose his vacation, that he's allowed to carry it over for another year. That's first part of the motion. And also that he be paid for his comp hours as he accumulates them. Get his back pay as he accumulates them going forward. And if there's not sufficient funds in his budget, then to pay that money out of that $36,000 worth of COVID money.
I'd second both of those.
Second, all those in favor? Aye.
We'll see if we can find a way to get that request into the new COVID, you know, we can find some place to do that too. Does that make sense?
That'd be nice.
Up the new CARES Act.
Well, if he's exempt, then
I don't.
they can have bonuses, like you can
Right.
say, okay,
I got you.
$5,000 bonus.
You can do it either way.
But if he's not exempt, then are we paying him time and a half, and
Yeah.
up to how much?
You would have to. I mean, it would be, you know, it would just be legally required.
So which are we doing a bonus for him, or are we doing?
Well, let me
time and a half?
review that, whether he qualified, because it's not listed there whether he's exempt or not. I would have thought he was, I mean, I'm shooting from the hip here. I would have guessed him to be non-exempt, but I haven't reviewed, and those are always complicated in analysis, you know, so I don't want to be wrong. That's important.
I would think he'd be an exempt employee, primarily by nature of his duties, number one, and number two, he's the manager of the department.
Right. Well, the nature of his duties might be, you know, is definitely a possibility, because professional, you know, people are typically exempt. So that may be the case, in which case, though, nevertheless, you know, a bonus might be, you know, in order.
They would have to decide on a bonus amount.
Well, how about if I retract that motion and make two separate motions? I'll retract my first motion. I don't know if it got seconded or not. And I'll restate it this way. Motion number one. I make a motion that we allow Frank to carry his accumulated vacation forward 1 year because of the COVID crisis.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye. Oh, okay, so my second motion then is that we pay him for his comp time, whether after the auditor determines the best method, if that be as a bonus or as a overtime.
Frank just said,
Does that sound good, Marty?
Yeah,
Frank just said the last that he knew he is exempt.
okay, well, I will take his word on that at this point. I'll just confirm it, so let's assume that's correct. And I'll check, see if there's any reason why that's not correct.
Kathy made the motion and Brian second. All those in favor? Aye.
Sorry to keep this dragging out, but what are you, we're paying him for his comp time, but are you paying him like a set amount? Are you paying him what he does get hourly right now for each hour? What?
His hourly pay, his hourly pay. Since he's an exempt employee, theoretically, he wouldn't get time and a half.
Right,
Right.
that's correct.
So I would be comfortable with at least at a minimum, his hourly wage.
At his hourly wage.
Right, that's how you calculate it.
And under normal circumstances, right, and under normal circumstances, that wouldn't happen. But in this particular case, there's no guidebook on how to treat a situation like this when you got COVID.
I mean, I guess.
Do you want that just to come out of the COVID funds, or do you want to see if he has money in his own?
I prefer it come from the COVID fund.
Yeah.
I'm sure Frank would prefer that.
Okay.
You got anything else for us, Kathy?
Well, I would like to say a couple of things on my way out the door. This is kind of a bittersweet moment, and I've always thought I might have something to say on my last day, and nobody's here to listen to me except you guys and a couple of people on this call. So, gosh, you guys can give me 5 more minutes, can't you?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Let me tell you, 12 years goes by fast, a lot faster than I would have thought. When I first took office in 2009, the county was broke. We had our LR&S budget for the highway was zeroed out. There was sewage dripping in the basement of the jail. There was all kinds of things that were wrong. There were potholes everywhere. Half the bridges in the county were down. The infrastructure was crumbling. It was in terrible shape. I never had any idea that so much would transpire over the course of 12 years. And in order to get all those things done, you have to have 3 commissioners that are willing to work together, that support each other. What one brings to the table is probably the weakness of the other one. And my strengths are probably other weaknesses. So you really have to have a good collegial relationship. And I hope the new guy comes in and he recognizes that and respects you guys for what you have here, and can learn to be a part of that process and that system. Actually, we've had good relationships with the council. It's not that we always agree. Sometimes we've had some pretty knockdown dragouts even, but all in all, I think everybody has good regard, and that's the key to getting things done. So over the 12 years, some of the things that have been improved, right off the bat, one of the things was we had a basic EMT service here in Stark County. They couldn't start IVs. They didn't have all this fancy equipment. They couldn't read EKGs. Pretty much if you were going to have a cardiac arrest out in the field, you die before you get to the hospital. That's just the way it was. That was one of the first things that the commissioners worked on when we started with one paramedic service and eventually got it expanded to all 3 bases. And that was with no additional tax money. We just adjusted some of our the things that we were spending money on to be able to bring a much needed service to our community. And it was a tremendous improvement for the residents of our community. And I also want to send a little bit of a shout out to Chris Rannells because Chris was very instrumental in helping us. Shortly after I got elected, I'd say within a couple of months, I remember Wilkus Minix, and Brian, you remember Wilkus.
Oh, yeah.
I remember he told me, whatever you do, kid, don't let them stick you with that jail. And of course, that is exactly what I got. So I organized a tour for the council and the other commissioners so we could see what kind of condition it was in. I heard it was bad, but let me tell you, when we walked into that jail, it stank, it was dark, it was unsafe. And when we walked into the prisoner area, we turned the hall light on and the prisoners started coming out towards the light from the darkness, just like Apocalypse Now. I never saw anything like it in my life. Well, after a couple of jail fires and a class action lawsuit, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, we did get some state legislation, special legislation that allowed us to implement an income tax, which surprisingly, we didn't get run out of town on a rail over. Everybody was worried about that, but I think people understood that we had to do something. So we built a new jail and now we have a nice facility. We have a sheriff that does a good job running it. And it's been able to bring services to the inmates that they could have never had in the jail that we had previously had. When they were moved over, then we remodeled the old jail across the street and we were able to expand the services for the court services and the community corrections. So we have other alternatives now to putting people in jail that we did not have 9 or 10 years ago. And despite that, we still have a pretty full jail. We've done some repairs and remodeling on the courthouse. I remember within the first year, we had somebody came in with we had got a little light grant to change some of the ballast to be more energy efficient. And a contractor came down and brought samples of wires that he just bent and snapped them and said, your courthouse is going to burn down, lady, if you're not careful. So the courthouse had been long neglected. And even though we've spent quite a bit of money on that courthouse over the last 5, 6, 7 years, we still could not, we still could stand to spend more. So it's important, you know, and that you guys, you know, always remember that we've got to maintain that building and keep a courthouse fund, maintenance fund to be able to, because it's expensive, as you know. There was water pouring in through the bricks because we didn't have the mortar. The tuck pointing needed to be done. It is a constant thing to be able to do that. The roads and the bridges, of course, as you know, or Brian probably remembers, you probably do too, Charlie, although 12 years ago, you'd have been really young.
Yeah.
You're probably in high school or maybe grade school back in them days.
High school.
I don't know, but high school. Oh gosh, I tell you, if they were in terrible condition. And like I say, no money. If it wouldn't have been for Mark Smith that first year to show us how to deal with not having any money in that LRNS budget, we'd have never got through that first year. And then we got Rick Ritzler. And like to stand back as a commissioner and say, oh, look at what Stark County has done. Yes, it's Rick Ritzler, but the commissioners were smart enough to hire that man. So when you find someone like that, you just pat them on the back and turn them loose and let them take care of business, and they make you look good. There are a few things that I regret. I don't know if I'm going to say regret, but I'm disappointed that I was not able to get addressed, or the boards that I worked with, we were not able to get addressed. And I hope that these are some things that you think about as you go forward. The big ticket probably for me is the hospital. I wish we could have come to an acceptable arrangement with the current hospital company, but that did not happen. I encourage you to work towards an acceptable and long-term solution for that. That will not only meet the needs of the people of this community, both now but far into the future. And in particular, the Save the Hospital Fund, it should be, once that is completed, that Save the Hospital Fund should be put into a permanently endowed fund with the community foundation that will address the healthcare needs of the people of this community in perpetuity. Sometimes when I think about what we could have done in this community to address those needs, whether that be mental health, whether that be physical health, whether that be immunizations, whether that be COVID, whatever, if we'd have had that money invested and retained the original amount and only spent the earnings on needed things for this community, we would be so much further ahead. But I'll be, I can assure you, I'll be watching and keeping an eye on that. And in the event that that does come up, I'll be right there in the audience advocating for that money to be set aside for the healthcare needs of these people and given to the community foundation. Economic development, you know, what can I say? Hold their feet to the fire. We pay them with taxpayer money. We're representatives of the taxpayer. We need to make sure that they're working in the best interests of our taxpayers. And really, I think you guys have had a really good taste of that. I think you're very knowledgeable about that, and I think you know what I'm talking about, and you'll do great going forward. There was probably a few other things, but I do want to say, as you know, I'm going to take a spot on the park board. I have a particular interest in trying to improve parks and recreation, which I view as an economic development tool, as well as a quality of place tool. And I think I have something left to be able to give to that endeavor as well. So I would ask that you guys be smile kindly on the park board going forward, because I'll be back to see you again for projects and money for that. And I guess the only other thing I can really say is I thank both of you. I've really enjoyed you guys. You're good commissioners. And it's been a pleasure to work with professionals that want to do a good job and want to put the best interests of the public first. And the flowers are beautiful. I guess that's enough. It's a late evening. That's all I had to say. I'll miss you guys.
Thank you, Kathy, for everything you've done for this county.
Yeah, exactly.
But I know we'll see you again.
Oh yes, you know how I
Hear
am.
from you, I'm sure.
Yep. When I get very passionate about something, I'm right there. So.
Yep, that's right.
Thank you, you guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Does anyone else on Zoom or have anything for us? If there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn? I'll second. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you
Thank you, Kathy.
and good night.
Hey Kathy,
What?
remember, I still got your phone number.
Call me anytime, Brian. And I'm going to be expecting you to buy me a drink at the V one of these nights.